Good morning, everybody. What's left of this morning? That is 7 minutes left, technically, of this morning. Good to see everybody in the chat this morning for a Ryan Day press conference. Where goes one? Buck Vader, Linda Jackson, Tyler Kersley, RDCB, Andre Green, Steve Powell. Good to see all of you this morning. Hope you all have had a great day today. We are currently waiting for the press conference to get started. Uh, I decided to start these a little early. I went at 12 o'clock last week, and as soon as we said, well, let's talk about what we would like, questions we'd like to have answered, he was at the podium, and we were off and running. If this is your first time with us, here's how we do this. It's a little different setup than what you're going to get at other places. We don't show the video, we only run the audio. I pause when something strikes my fancy, we talk about it, then we hit play and we continue on. It's a live reaction to Ryan Day's press conference. Usually lasts somewhere between an hour 15 minutes. You can ask me questions about what I think about certain things that are brought up during the press conference. That is on the table to do as well. It's a lot of fun. We have a live react. I read your comments based off of what Ryan Day says. And it's going to be a good time. RDCB, have we reached 200 since last night? No, we haven't. If you don't know what Ryan Day's Championship Beard is referring to, this would be a good time to tell you all. So, Buck Vader, our insider, fantastic, best guy in the business, has thrown down the gauntlet. He was offended by the fact that someone tried to buy his services away from us last week. And he said, let's build our community as big and strong as we absolutely can. He goes, I have three massive stories I've never talked about, things I know about Ohio State, about the media, and about, of course, my personal life and story. And I'm going to share those with everybody on Patreon as soon as we get 200 paying members on Patreon. We currently sit at 51. We need 149 more paying customers at $5 a month or $20 a month. And as soon as we get that number, Buck Vader is going to drop a nuclear bomb. It's so big, he's never told anybody. And he's also going to reveal who his sources are, which is wild to me that he would do that, but it would absolutely cause a massive shakeup in the Ohio State media community when they find out who his sources are. It's one of the reasons why the dude's batting 1,000. Okay, just put it to you straight up that way. Good to see Sage with us this morning. And it is indeed a great day to be a Buckeye. So if any of you are not members currently of our Patreon, down in the show notes, there you can click the link to Patreon. You can get signed up. If you decide to be a $20 member, you will get this official member OHIO podcast hat mailed to you at no additional charge as our way of saying thank you for finding value in what we do. $5 members get access to everything minus the hat. Message boards, extra video contents daily, by the way, daily. Buck Vader's blog, where he writes almost an article every single day. It is a fantastic community to be a part of, and it is behind the paywall, so we're able to do a lot of things like game watches and everything else. I don't think I would reveal who his sources are. They would have a chance to try and go and talk to his sources and poach them. Um, it's not going to matter. I know who one of them is. It's not going to matter. It's incredible, dude. It's absolutely incredible. Anyways, we are looking forward to the press conference today. It's supposed to get started at noon, so we will make sure that we are alive and ready for that one. So yes, indeed, that's what we're going to do. Make sure we are doing. Okay, let's talk about what we want to hear in the press conference. It's 11:57. Should be getting started soon. Um, Obviously, the injury to Jeremiah Smith, the injury to Carnell Tate is going to be, Ryan is going to get a ton of questions about that. Okay. A ton of questions. Um, so let's just be cognizant of that. And the feed just went up, so they are getting ready right as we speak. Um, they're getting ready. So hopefully he'll be at the podium here in a minute. Eric, what questions would you like answered today? Yeah, I obviously would love to. If Ryan Day comes out and says, "Dude, this is no big deal on these injuries. These guys are fine." I don't know if I'm going to 100% believe it. I gotta see it. I want to know what Ryan Day's thoughts of on how the running game improved. Was it an offensive line thing? Did they do anything differently on the offensive line? I would love to know what Ryan Day's thoughts are um, as far as this week, a week out from the game. Would he be willing to offer any information on their preparation for Michigan? Um, He's probably going to get a question about Greg Schiano and Greg Schiano's tendency to run trick plays against him. Does that bother him? Does it annoy him? Things of that nature. We can expect a question about that. I would love, this is me personally, if I was there, I would ask Ryan Day to give a comment about RJ Day's season, his junior season, his son's season, and where he currently sits after his junior season as far as his what schools and things of that nature. Just kind of as a dad, I would love to know as a dad I would love to get that comment, man, I'm so proud of RJ, man. What a great season he had, and he's really put in the hard work, and as a father, I mean, I would love that. I would ask that question. And it's not Ohio State related, and I'm sure some people would be like, "Dude, why are you wasting a question talking to him about his son?" But that's the kind of stuff I love. It's the kind of stuff I feel like Ohio State fans would love to, because it makes Ryan look more human, more like us, more relatable, right? I think he would appreciate the question too if it was asked in the right way. And of course, if I had time, I would sit down and I would, present it properly so that it doesn't feel like it's taking away from this week's game and things like that. Great question. I'm glad you asked. Let's go ahead and give the coach speak answer. They are day to day, and we'll try to get them back for Rutgers, but have the rivalry game coming, and it's all about their health. Nailed it. It's exactly what we're gonna get. But they're gonna ask, and it's their job. It's somebody's job to ask. It'll probably be one of the first questions they get. Steve, good to see you. I think the running game improved a little, but the running backs need to get better on pass protection of Julian Singh. Yes, freshman running backs usually struggle in pass pro, and especially Bo's getting better, but my gosh, Isaiah West about got Julian killed 2 weeks ago. So yeah, they need to get better at that. Ed says UCLA's pass D was definitely better than their run D. They were, and you're going to see a similar thing with Rutgers. Rutgers defensively is even worse at run defense than UCLA. Good to see you with this morning, Mark. Good to have you with us, man. I don't know what this is about. Tyler the toxic troll. Are you? Tyler's not toxic. He's not. At least he's not here. Tyler, are you toxic in other people's shows? Are you a toxic troll, buddy? I don't go to other people's shows, man. I just don't do it. I mean, I just don't have time now. I just don't have time. That's your new nickname. T the toxic troll. I kind of like that. I'm not gonna lie, that's funny, dude. I guess if you know the backstory, I guess that's funny. Tyler, you're one of the nicest dudes I know, man. I did see a comment you made one time where I was like, T, bro. Oh, that's funny. What questions would you like to see? Is Michigan on scare alert with Maryland? No, Maryland's awful. Rutgers stomped Maryland last. Maryland's a one-trick pony, dude. They're even more of a one-trick pony than Michigan is offensively. Maryland's bad. That's a bad football team. The worst 4 teams in the Big Ten are Purdue, UCLA, Maryland, Michigan State. And I don't even know. I mean, you might have to take UCLA off that list because they did win several games in a row, including the beating Penn State. But it's definitely the worst 3 are definitely Purdue, Maryland, and Michigan State, hands down. Those are the and Michigan got to play all 3 of them in conference this year and struggled with Purdue, mind you. They struggled with Purdue. And technically they struggled with Michigan State now that I think about it. They did win the game easily at the end, but Tim Workman, good to see you. Must stay focused on Rutgers, no looking ahead. What if I told you Rutgers is looking ahead to Penn State? It's actually true. They are. They just want to come out of this game healthy and ready. Oh, here we go. He's at the podium. Here we go, everybody. Let's jump into it.
Discuss specifics on injuries, and then once you start going down a little bit here, a little bit there, you can create a problem. And so, for a number of reasons, we don't discuss those things. We put out the report the day of the game, but I can tell you that they're in great spirits. The medical staff is working hard. We'll take it day to day and see how they come in each day, but they're working hard to get back on the field. And just so you understand, we check in every day. We take the advice of the medical staff and use their feedback, and we go from there. So we'll continue to do that.
Ooh. That wasn't a very good answer. That wasn't positive at all, guys. What do y'all think of that? We'll go on to the... Yeah, I didn't like that answer at all. We'll have to revisit this at the end. That first answer on health, not what I was hoping for. I was hoping for more of the coach speak and, they're... Sean thinks he's acting. If he's acting, give him the Emmy, dude. I'm with RDCB on this one. I think we have a problem. We're not going to like the result. Yeah, Steve says it doesn't sound good to me. Sean is 100% convinced it's mind games for Michigan. Okay. I mean, I hope you're right, Sean. I hope you're right, but we've seen this song and dance before, and it hasn't turned out well for us. Let's move on.
David, right tackle or right guard. How did he grade out? He played a lot of snaps. Steve Van Sickle. How did he play?
Solid. That was his first kind of real action, and I thought there was good snaps there. And you can see the talent. You can see the bend. You can see the power. He looks like he belongs. So now he's got to, start stacking some games here.
Didn't raise my hand. Brian, when you are dealing with Saturday night, Julian was a little bit limpy, gimpy, looked like at times. I don't know if he got hit weird or whatever. How much does that potentially impact what he looked like on the field in the second half? Like some of the accuracy, the sideline stuff. I mean, we obviously quarterbacks throw the ball differently than they used to. You don't use your plant foot and your back foot all the same that we used to see when you were playing. But how much impact does that have in a game for you?
I guess it can just depend on what's going on, on each individual play. So I think it's hard to say exactly how much anything like that had an effect on him. But, I mean, when you look at certain plays, there's a lot that goes into it. And so I can't specifically say, what percentage or anything like that, when you start to look at, we had maybe some guys in the game that hadn't had as many reps, there's not as much chemistry there. They'll work, hard to continue to build on that. There's a lot of things that come into play. So, but at the end of the day, we got to do our job.
Ryan, you mentioned Jeremiah had a nagging thing, and he took that nasty hit against Illinois where he kind of got flipped over. Is there anything lingering from that particular play that's been bothering him?
Not that I know of.
And did he do anything in that game on Saturday to further complicate or injure what made him initially a game time decision?
Not that I know of.
You all not gonna want to hear this. I know people are gonna be mad at me for saying this. I am 100% convinced it's the practice. It's the turf. It's the turf. Turf monster, man. It is the worst turf. There's a reason why the NFL has banned this turf, and that's what we have put on the field and on the practice field and in the Woody Hayes facility. Yeah, tough. That's tough.
Back in the spring, you and a lot of the players were talking about how they wanted to take some of the signs and everything down and just kind of wanted to move on from last year and those successes and kind of carve their own path here and get their own in those situations. I know that's about the positives of last season and whatnot, but I don't know, philosophically, can that apply to some of the negatives of the last couple of years of these guys they don't have the successes, but they also don't have necessarily the war wounds that a lot of those guys had over the last couple of years?
I don't know. I just know that we have to continue to focus on right now, and that's it. And there's lessons that can be learned from the past, but at the end of the day, it comes down to everybody doing their job and just staying focused right now. And that's it. And I think it's a job as the coaches to be at our best. It's a job of the players to be at their best right now. And we'll use, what's happened in the past as learning lessons. But at the end of the day, the majority of that stuff doesn't have an effect on this team in particular. Everyone, and this team is unique. We have our own journey, our own process that we're looking to master every week, and that's really what it comes down to. So, this is their story, and I say it all the time, the pen's in your hand, and here we are, we're in it right now. What do you want the story to be? Each team and each year, there's its own story. So, I think, again, we learn from the past, but ultimately we have to focus on what's right now.
With Carnell, at the Purdue game, you had mentioned you thought maybe you probably could have played if you needed to. Has there been a setback or anything since then that has changed the calculus with him at least?
Again, I don't want to get into everything because once I start answering one question, then it leads to something else. So I don't want to comment any of that stuff.
Coach, you said you want to be playing your best ball here in November. Just thoughts on this week's game, and it'll be senior day.
Yeah, well, for our seniors, these games go fast, and we talk every year about how quickly these games go. And here we are, last game in the shoe, in the regular season, and it's important for everyone to play with urgency. But I say all the time, don't wait till the last game to start feeling all the emotion of that. That's a build up all year long, and being in the moment and appreciating that. But for the guys who are playing their last game in the shoe, it's a big deal, and we need to celebrate those guys by everybody in the Woody giving everything we have and playing for them. And I know they're going to put everything they have into this game because there's a lot of great memories on that field, a lot of great memories in the Woody, and spending time on the practice field and all of those things. And when you get a chance to reflect, it just makes you realize how important finishing this season is the right way.
How about Rutgers? Obviously, there's some familiarity too with Sean.
Yeah, sure. So, they always put pressure on you in all three phases. It starts with special teams and then goes to offense and defense. And, they always have a plan of how they want to attack you. And they play complementary football. So, coming off of a win and a bye week, so we got to be on our game.
Your defense is forcing so many 3-and-outs and short possessions, the last 2 weeks especially, that they're barely on the field. I think 37, 44 snaps. That's not leaving a ton for the starters or the backups. Are you having to change, or are you changing anything with practice to try and get them more reps? Are they playing too good right now?
No, they're not. But I think it's good in terms of the freshness of our team. So that part's been good, and we practiced physically. The offense has been on the field for more the last couple of weeks. I think we've had over 70 rushes the last 2 weeks, and so it's been good. It's been solid. Guys are getting those reps, but that's why we practice so hard during the week. But once you get to this part of the season, we got to be smart in what we do and make sure guys are fresh. And when you look at the snap count on defense, you can see why our guys are, seeking contact this time of year.
Ryan, we see what Matt kind of does from a schematic thing on the schematic aspect on the field, but just to see him in the day-to-day, I know you don't work so much with the defense now because he's kind of running it, but see him on the day-to-day and how he's been with the players. What has that been like to see that growth over the years?
Well, it started right from when we walked in the building, and he continues to put that time and effort in and makes extra time to connect with the players and communicate with the staff. And because of that, there's trust. And I think when you come in as a new coordinator with, really the team in place, the coaching staff in place, I mean, you're kind of on your own. He brought in, a couple guys, but for the most part, he came in by himself, and he was able to connect with everybody early on. And that's how you have an impact early, is you build trust. And there's only one way to do that. That's spend time with your guys, and he's done that. And so I think, we've seen preparation. You've seen some confidence on the field. You've seen guys when, again, there hasn't been a whole lot of adversity this year, but when it has hit, there's been guys who get to the sideline, solve the problem, and get it fixed quickly, get back on the field without panic. I think that's because, they know when they turn to him and they turn to the coaching staff, they're going to give them answers on what exactly happened, and then go get it fixed.
Not to say there wasn't that same trust in the field last year, but do you sense a different vibe or feel with Patricia and this group as maybe last year's group?
Every year is different. Yeah, just the personality is different. We lost a whole lot of personalities on defense last year, and a whole lot of production, and a whole new group of guys came in, and so because there was just so much movement between the players, the coordinator, it was just a totally different feel and dynamic, but all within the culture of our program. And so again, I don't know how to compare it other than it's just different.
When you look at James Peoples, he came into this year kind of high expectations. Obviously, things didn't go the way he wanted out of the gate. What have those conversations been like, and then to see him have that moment Saturday and kind of really start to take off here, how special?
Well, I think this is another one of our younger running backs that hasn't, reached his potential yet. I think you're seeing his work ethic and his mindset really change as the season's gone on. Maybe not change, but just, really develop, in my opinion. You can see when he's on the field. You can see the way he's practicing, and that's kind of where it starts. No, it doesn't start there. It starts with a mindset, then it starts with how you practice, and then it all of a sudden shows up in the game. And now you're starting to see him really run downhill. You're seeing him break tackles, and now he's starting to really, show what he can do. And I still think there's a lot left for James. But to your point, he stayed with it. He hasn't let, anything get in the way and discourage him, which is great. And because of that, now he's starting to play his best football when we need him the most.
Interesting comment there about James Peoples. Almost sounds like Ryan Day's alluding to the fact that James mentally maybe wasn't prepared to be the starter. Did you guys pick up on that? That maybe James, wasn't ready to kind of pick up that mantle that was left by Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, and that possibly now that he kind of has had more of an opportunity to watch a couple of freshmen get the majority of carries here, that now all of a sudden he's playing with a different mindset. Maybe not so much the physical traits were the issue as much as maybe the mental traits of James People. Found that very interesting answer there from Ryan Day about that. Vegas says this is very concerning news with JJ Incarnate. Yeah, this is definitely the biggest news coming out of this press conference. You're going to see every outlet write about it. Everybody's going to be talking about it. It's going to be the topic of conversation for the rest of this week, 100%. And then you're going to get the debate. Is Ryan Day bluffing? Is he bluffing about this, or is this real? That is going to be the debate amongst Ohio State fans. I'm just going to be honest with you. That seemed like a really not a happy Ryan Day answer. And if he's bluffing, he's a really good poker player. Sean says it already was concerning about JJ and Carnell. I assume that's what you're alluding to, is that this news about JJ and Carnell was already concerning. Yeah, it was. But it seemed like Carnell was fine on the sideline. He warmed up in Purdue, and hey, we're just gonna be extra cautious and give him an extra week of practice. I'm here to tell you, if it's a hammy, which is what the rumor was, that's a hammy with Carnell, he might be done for the year, because those babies will linger. It already was the news of the day, says Sean. Yeah, I mean, it's what we opened up with as well. I agree. But you never know what comes out of these press conferences that might take the cake. But yeah, it's definitely the number one story right now. 100% agree with you. Let's continue on.
Yeah, you talk about senior day. It's also, for being honest, junior day for a few of you guys probably who aren't going to be back, top 10 projected picks. Do you have conversations with them? I mean, kind of this unstated thing that this might be it for you too, even though we're not talking about that quite yet.
You know, we have meetings during bye weeks and communicate with guys and, their sphere of influence and try to help them the best they can to prepare them so it doesn't all just come at them at the end of the year. So they can stay focused on what matters most, and that's what's playing. But right now, it's all about football.
I'm not sure what Josh.
Sphere of influence, aka your parents, your uncles, and who give you advice, your agents, your sphere of influence. Interesting way to title that. I like that, Ryan. We shall continue on. We shall continue. Hold on. Let me get Ryan Day's championship beers comment. Even if they don't play Saturday, it won't tell us anything. That's what's expected. When you will know more is the day of Michigan. If they don't play that day, it's serious. Eric, what is Zach Smith saying on his show? I know he was pulled from YouTube. He would know about the wide receiver room. He would know what his people are telling him that are connected to the program. I don't know that he still talks with Brian Hartline or not, Sean. And I'll be honest, I don't watch Zach Smith's show, so I don't know what he's saying. To be honest with you, but you are right. I feel like he would have some kind of insight on the situation. But what I'm going to do is we will have Buck Vader on it. He's our insider. He's very well connected to the program, extremely well connected to the program. If he comes back with they're tight-lipped on this, that's not going to give us the information, but that would be the truth of it. And if Buck Vader says they're tight-lipped on it, then I don't know that anybody else is going to have any information that we wouldn't have either when it comes to these two men. What I would love to do is I would love to see J.J. Smith walking with my own two eyes. Just is he walking the same as he was on Saturday, or is he walking without a limp? That would tell me, I think, more. Does he when they have practice tomorrow and the media has availability at the end of practice, is he there? Did you see him walk off the field? Did it look like he was practicing? Those are the type of things that I think would give us a little bit more information. But only time will tell, it looks like. But yeah, great point, Sean. Here we go.
Josh Padilla's health status is this week, but given what you said about Gabe and what he showed you, is it possible you would play three guards there and try to rotate three guys in there if they're all three capable of playing, or do you really want to keep that to two? I don't know what that looks like.
Right. We probably want to keep it to two, but I guess if the snap count got really high, we could do that, but we probably want to keep it to two guys.
What is it about Rutgers' ability to block punts? We've seen it. They've had multiple punts in games before.
Yeah.
And how much of a concern is it when you come into a game like this?
Well, they put a ton of pressure on you, and and that's felt by everybody. I think when you look at even last week when we put some pressure at the end of the half, the punter could obviously feel that and didn't maybe kick it exactly how he wanted, which led to, I think, the fact that the ball was blocked, the punt was blocked. So I think it's a mindset that they're going to apply pressure, and that's their philosophy. Everyone has their own philosophy, and they do a great job of it, man. Those guys give great effort, and so we got to be on our game.
Ryan, regarding recruiting, in his last few years, Urban Meyer would lament the fact that just wasn't enough senior film. They didn't get to evaluate enough senior film. Now with NIL, the coaching carousel, we've seen you guys pick up 7 seniors this month. How has all of everything going on impacted your ability to evaluate seniors now?
Well, that was our philosophy coming into the season, was that for a lot of reasons we wanted to be able to identify the guys who really played well their senior year, and then use that as an evaluation tool, maybe even more than we had in the past. And one of the biggest reasons is because, these are truly investments now, and in terms of resources, and we have to make sure that we're right in what we're doing. These decisions are more and more important. So, the more information you have, certainly it helps make every decision clearer, and that's what we're looking to do. So, as many times as we can evaluate a recruit, and figure out if this is somebody who's going to work here, because it's not about winning signing day. It's about them coming here and having success. If they have success, we have success. If they fail, we fail. And so this is a relationship that has to be on both ends. And we also want to make sure that there's guys that fit our culture and want to be here. So all those things come into play when you're looking to sustain a certain level over a period of time.
Do you think you've been helped by the fluidity of the sport right now?
I mean, I think it's just the way that it is in terms of, like you said, the NIL, obviously there's been coaching changes, and, we're trying to adapt every year and do what's best for that year. It's like, you have to look at it, from a wider lens, but then every once in a while you got to look and see, okay, here are the changes that are going on. Now there's one transfer portal. All those things are taken into consideration. You look at, how, some of the guys are playing. Are there guys who are going to go to the NFL and leave early now? Maybe we didn't know if they were going to before the season. So we try to adapt the best we can, and then predict the best we can and forecast what it's going to look like. And that's what roster management's all about right now. So I know stability is, more important than ever right now, and we have to make sure we're doing our part to bring in the right people.
He just brought up the transfer portal when talking about recruiting again. And we're going to be doing a video about this, guys. We're going to be doing a video about this again here soon. But what we have been alluding to, and when we talk recruiting now for the last, I don't know, about a month now, is the idea that they're going to be taking larger classes, 30, maybe even above 30 recruits, because they anticipate the transfer portal affecting this roster more than it ever has before, in a negative sense, meaning we're going to lose more than we can gain. And so you have to have good player retention, number one. Number two, great player development. And it's a math problem now. The more kids we bring in, the higher the opportunity is that one of these kids will hit, will be developed, and will be a kid who sticks it out long term. And so we can't gamble at 23, 22, 21 kids in a class anymore, because if you're going to lose some of those kids anyways, now you have to be almost precise in your recruitment and development. But if you bring in a larger number and you lose kids, you're going to be able to retain more for roster management. So the transfer portal is definitely creating an issue for teams like Ohio State, Georgia, these teams that traditionally go deeper in playoff runs now, because of that shorter transfer portal window that happens during the playoff run. It's going to really affect teams like Ohio State. Now, they have a staff that's going to be there who's going to be all over the transfer portal, and they're going to try to get guys to come in and be a part of the future program who are in the transfer portal. But Ryan Day and his staff cannot concentrate on that when they are in the midst of a playoff run trying to win a back-to-back national championship here. And so because of that, let's go ahead and bring in more kids in recruiting to make up the difference for that. That's why you're going to see a larger class. Great question and a fantastic answer. Michigan has Justice Haynes on a scooter having surgery and hoped he was back for Ohio State. We get absolutely no information on our guys and get coach speak. Sometimes I really hate it. I do too, but there's absolutely nothing RDCB that in any bylaw at all that says Ohio State has to issue a injury report. Until on Saturday, it's who's available and who's not available. Essentially, that is your injury report that they give. College is not like the NFL, and until it changes, we're going to continue to be frustrated with it, and we're going to continue to have these debates at the end of the season with players who might be injured. It's just the way it is. Great comment though. I wish someone would say to him, Dave Portnoy said you will pee down your leg. I'd just like to see his reaction. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Tyler says it's a HIPAA violation. Is it though? No, I don't think. Is it? I mean, college. I think it. I think the reason why the NFL gives an injury report is for betting purposes. Like they have to do it. They have to do that for betting purposes. And now that you can bet on college games, I wonder if that's going to be the next thing that happens. But the difference is there's no player union to negotiate any of this with with the owners, right? There are no owners. There is no player union in college, and so they're in this weird dynamic where it's amateurism, but it's not. And what do you do? And now you can bet, but the rules are different. And it's one of the reasons why college football every year feels a little bit different. Something's different. And like he says, right, Ryan Day said his answer, we have to adapt every year because of this stuff.
You talked earlier about this team being really focused on right now, and you've talked about routine kind of throughout the year about not being bored with the same thing and hearing the same thing, doing the same thing. Has this team handled that better than maybe some you've seen in the past, and how much does it help, whether it's this week about not overlooking an opponent or week one when there was a massive opponent, not thinking too much of that opponent? Like, how much has routine helped this team, and have they handled that better than some of the past?
I don't know how to compare them to previous teams, but you know they're very businesslike. Good look in their eye when they come in the building. Good look in their eye on the sideline before the game, when they're in the game. I think they know how serious this is and our obligation to do our job. And you know, I think it's all about the process and doing a great job from Sunday all the way to Saturday. And if we can focus on that part of it and not the result, not the opponent, then we'll have a chance to continue to build. Because if you keep getting better at your process and then you keep using the game as feedback, when you get to the end of the season, you're going to do the same thing that week. That's it. We're not going to change. And so we're trying to master that the best we can here and stay focused and stay locked in. And that's it. Like, all the other stuff doesn't matter. It's about like, how do I focus on doing my job and doing my part as on the team, and keeping all the distractions out of the way, because we know they're out there, and we can't be naive to that. So, but it's one thing to say, it's another thing for guys to listen and buy in, and right now they are, but it's week to week, as you know.
Ryan, we were talking to Kiana 2 weeks ago about, he said that he had meetings with you and Matt about being able to not just cage the pocket as much, and we've seen him kind of take off in his production. Obviously, everybody knows about the player meeting from last year in December. How much better have you and your staff gotten over the last 12 months on player feedback? And do you feel like that's something that has really helped this program forward as you've matured with the team?
Well, I mean, I feel like communication, and just like any type of relationship, any type of organization, everybody will tell you communication's very important. But sometimes coaches are the most uncoachable people. Somebody that I know back home told me that, and they're right. So, we have to be able to listen. And we don't always have to agree, but we have to create an environment where someone feels like they can speak freely and give you their feedback. And if there's high levels of trust, then there can be those types of conversations. And so knowing what's going on in the minds of our players is critical. And then having ownership, knowing that they're being heard, I think does make a difference. They understand the hierarchy, they know how it works, but it's also good to be heard and challenged. And as a coach, it's okay to concede a point. And I think you can't let your ego get in the way. You got to do what's best for the organization.
Yeah, Ryan, without delving into specifics, just sort of for the record, can you walk us through injury protocol and how that plays out either in a game or during the week? Both?
In terms of a game?
Or during the week, like, does the athlete have the final say? I know that you work with the trainer in a game and then during the week.
In terms of like as we get closer to the game, if someone's available or not. Yeah, so the medical staff each day gives a report on how someone's doing, whether they're in practice, full go, limited or out, and then kind of gives an update on how things are going. And then as we get closer to the game, it's available, unavailable, or questionable, game time decision. And so we just go off of that, and certainly the communication between the players and the medical staff is important in terms of making those decisions.
If a player didn't want to, if he just felt he couldn't play, he has the final say.
Oh, of course. Of course. Yeah. Everyone's feedback is taken into consideration. And that's where, again, when you talk about trust within an organization, all those things come into play, and it's a group effort. But certainly we always take into consideration, the student athletes and how they're feeling and all those things. Yeah.
Injury aside, we're in a new era, you've talked about it, more games. Do you ever foresee the day where load management really becomes a thing where a guy, you just don't play a guy in a game? Or, I know you rep them, fewer reps, but how do you see this playing out?
I think a part of it is like the season, and then a part of it would be how you practice during the week, and then, where somebody is within their season. And so we get a lot of good information from sports science compared to previous years and try to do the best we can. But we also have to win, every game. And so that's the balance. But I feel like, here, when you look at last year, when you look at how we've handled things, I think we're in a pretty good place. But we're always chasing it and trying to do what's best for our guys.
Obviously, you guys don't have quite as big of a senior class in terms of guys who've been here for 4 years this year. But how important have guys like Sonny, like Hayden, Kenyatta, Carson, guys who have been there the full 4 years been in terms of leadership for this team?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because when you look at last year's team and how many guys came back, you kind of recognize that once they walked out, we were going to have sort of a gap in there. That's just kind of how it works. When someone decides to come back for their 4th and 5th year, sometimes there's no room for some players, and so they decide maybe to move on or whatever it might be. So we knew there was going to kind of be a year where we didn't have as many older seniors. But I think the leadership of even the juniors and even some sophomores has been excellent because they've been kind of thrust into those roles, as you've seen. And so, it isn't just about, your ranking that gives you leadership. It's about your impact and influence on others. And I think, you're seeing some really great leadership. When guys speak, the guys around them listen. And I think there's just a matter of fact about this group. There's not a lot of drama. They know what they need to do. They show up and they make guys around them better. And that approach so far has worked. We've got to keep it going.
Ryan, similar to what Rob was asking, but when you have a guy who maybe could play, but you think, okay, maybe this isn't the best for the long-term goals like we've talked about. They're competitors. They want to be on the field. How does that side of the conversation go when maybe you guys are saying this isn't probably the best idea and the player wants to be out there? Just take us through that.
Yeah, every situation's different, but at the end of the day, it's our job to make sure that, we're, one, giving great information, and then two, looking out for what's best for our guys. And that's really, the best I can say it. But there's always a lot of variables and a lot that goes into every situation. And so we try to do the best we can, again, to communicate and do what's best for our guys.
Ryan, you're talking about what the medical staff does during the week with, guys are limited or whatever. At this point in the year, I'm sure there's a bunch of guys who have physical issues. It's a violent sport. How much do guys need practice during the week in order to play on Saturday? Can you be pretty limited during the week, especially if you're a veteran, and be okay on Saturday to play?
Yep. Yeah, I think it depends on what, soreness guys have or what injuries maybe they are, and what position. I think all those things come into consideration. And like you said, on a day like today, that we're going to have good on good. We're going to have scout periods. We're going to have indie periods. And so based on what they're dealing with, we'll adapt we've done that for years. We adapt that practice based on how they're doing. Full go is full go. Then you have limited. And then you have, just indie. And so based on what they're dealing with, let's just say it's a shoulder, they're not going to be involved in special teams drills or snagging guys to the ground or, whatever the drills might be. So, the medical staff does a great job of making sure they present that to us at our 9 o'clock meetings every morning so that we can plan ahead for practice.
Since the Texas game, you've won every game by at least 18 points. This is a great problem to have, to not have close calls, but every other team in the country has. Is there a part of you that wishes that you had faced that kind of adversity? And I have a hunch how you're going to answer this, but what are you doing to try to simulate that so that when you do get in those games, you're ready?
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but it's like trying to worry about things that are out of your control, and it's sort of a waste of time. However, I think I mentioned to you that we were trying to raise the level of play in terms of a 83% grade, which is hard to do. And just so everybody understands, like even that 3% could be a big deal. It could come down to one play in a matchup game. And so, the intensity is high. It's the coach's job to make sure everybody in the building is locked in. It's my job to make sure the coaches are locked in. And it's the position coach's job to make sure that their units are locked in and doing their job. And we're on our game. And then, practice has got to be good too. I mean, we can't just expect to, not be physical in practice and not go, good on good, because, we're going to need that to keep our edge. And so all those things are taken into consideration, but we don't take anything for granted. We don't take we don't make any assumptions. And like every week, every Saturday, an opportunity to get to Indianapolis is on the line. That's the way it is here right now. I mean, we want to get to Indy, and we haven't got to Indy here. There's nobody on this team that's been to Indy right now, and they know it. And so, like, that's the edge. You wake up in the morning every day looking to reach our goals. So whoever we play, we play. This is going to be a great challenge this week. We know that. And we just watch across college football every week, and you just see, different teams, challenging each other, and we got to do our part. So we can't worry about what we can't control. And you've heard me say that before. I know it sounds boring, but it's the truth. We got to worry about what we can control.
You've talked about.
Interesting. We've talked about this very thing here in the podcast before. This team hasn't had a close call. They haven't been in a game in the fourth quarter since Texas, game number 1. This team is so much different today than they were in game number 1, and yet, and I posed the question, is it just because they're that good? Well, against these opponents that we've played, the answer is yes. And for everybody who's saying you haven't played nobody, well, in, 11 days from that point on, every team Ohio State will play until their season is finished or they win a national championship will be a good team that's ranked in the top 25, at least. And it'll probably get progressively better from there. Yeah, this team, we're going to find out what this team's made of in the fourth quarter. Will they, to reference the great prophet Macho Man Randy Savage, will the cream rise to the top, or are they going to sink to the bottom of the cup? Are they not as good as we thought they were? We're going to find answers to every one of those questions here, starting with the visit to Ann Arbor and moving forward. He brought up some very interesting things that we're going to get to here at the end of this press conference that I want to touch on, a couple different things. But what's very interesting about that aspect of it is a limited practice role. Can you lose your edge? Yes and no. It depends on the player. But what you can is you can lose your conditioning. You can lose your conditioning very, very quickly. Even so, everybody who's saying, let's rest everybody. I understand why you're saying that. Yes, especially that's why Ryan Day's saying, depending on what's happening with the player, will be what kind of practice will be adjusted for that player. So, in other words, to answer your question, let's say the injury to JJ isn't severe enough to keep him out of 7-on-7 drills, but when it comes to full contact, good on good, they're going to pull him off the field because they don't want him to re-injure something like that. So you have to keep that conditioning up. For everybody who's saying, just rest them until the Michigan game, you can lose that conditioning, man. I know other sports like basketball are a little bit different than football, but you 100% can lose that conditioning, and that can lead to you kind of losing your edge if you're not careful. So this is kind of a big deal on that regards. Let me check the let me check the comments here. Yeah, Vegas talking about turf again. Yeah, I feel you, man. If we don't have Carnell, Tate, and JJ Smith, we'll have a game we're fighting in. Yeah, 100%, dude. Maybe not this weekend, but we will. Yeah. All right, let's finish off this press conference. Looks like we got about a little under 5 minutes left.
About the edginess of the team, do you think that will serve you well when you get into that situation, and that's a reason you're not so worried about this?
I'm worried about everything. It's just the way I am. It's a coach who's life. He just, he's always trying to figure out what's next and try to predict and forecast the best you can. And but I love our guys. I love the edginess. I love the competitiveness. And here we are. I mean, you look at that schedule right there. We only got 2 more in that schedule. And so if you said we're 10-0, rocking right now, I'd say let's go play. And so we're here. And so we got to be at our best. Everybody in the building.
Coach, you worry about everything, as you just said.
Yeah.
Running game is seeing improvement. When you watch the film this week, I know it's not 100% what you want, but how did you feel about the running game after watching this game versus previous weeks?
I mean, I thought there was a lot of physicality. I see Carson Hinsman had 9 knockdowns in the game. I mean, it's hard to knock a trash can down 9 times. That's a heck of a job. I thought guys were finishing downfield. There's some clips of guys finishing people out of bounds. Running backs are running through contact. People are finishing. It was a good Sunday to watch effort and physicality and fundamentals, because we know that's going to matter in the end.
83%?
Yeah, there was some 83% for sure. Again, I don't want to get into it all, but yeah. And some of those guys are in the O-line, which, there's nowhere to hide in the offensive line unless maybe there's a naked or a quick screen or something like that. But other than that, you're graded to a high level. And Coach Bowen is very particular and critiques those guys at a high level. And so there were some guys who graded out, which is not easy to do. So credit to them in their preparation, and now we got to do it again.
Just shifting gears back to high school, in the state of Ohio, they're voting to possibly bring NIL to high school football. Just your thoughts on how that could impact the sport for high school and college, bring NIL down there?
Yeah, well, I think when you look at where the rest of the nation is, I think, we'll let the people who make the decisions. But I think across the country, you're seeing it's become pretty standard. And so I think if we would have said this about 10 years ago, I think all of us would have been like, no way. But here we are. We're in this phase, and I can see it obviously benefiting the student athletes, which ultimately is a great opportunity for them.
Last question is to Tim. Oh, thanks, Mike. I'm just zeroing in on one. After the game Saturday night, Brandon Ennis said he's seen a look in your eye after, last year after the meeting and stuff that got everything straight, but that look is still there. When you look in the mirror right now, what do you see staring back at you from the standpoint of what just has changed about your demeanor that's carrying through?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's every year, every game, you learn, you try to grow, you try to get better, you try to recognize the things that need to get done to do your job. We all have an obligation, and yeah, I mean, just surround yourself with great people and go as hard as you possibly can and push, and that's it. And so, no, I mean, I can't sit here, I tell you I know any different how I act or anything like that based on week to week. I try to be as consistent as I can, and try to push the guys and try to give them as much information as I can on what's coming next and forecast what that week needs to look like and where we're going with the season, and try to put the guys in the best position to be successful. That's it. And I think the one thing that these guys can recognize is that there's a lot of buy-in. They know that, if you buy into what we're doing, if you believe in what you're doing, you're going to see the results. And that's important. And I think everybody in the building feels that way when they walk into Woody. And that's a good sign for a leader. But again, like it's week to week, and we got to keep bringing it.
When you eyeball guys before a game, like you said, you look into their eyes, you see that. What's the telltale sign there?
Well, I think eyes lead to the soul, man. You look at someone's eyes, you know exactly what's going on. And that mindset starts with how you look. And someone told me that, and I agree with it. And so you can tell exactly, what you're dealing with when you look somebody in the eye. And, I watch a sideline, I watch the TV copies, I watch everything just to see what the look in everybody's eye is. And I think when you look at our guys, there's a certain business about them, and that's the way we're going to play the game.
Coach, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, there you have it. That was Ryan Day's press conference. Eyes lead to the soul, man. Man, he was getting philosophical there at the end of that press conference for us. Eyes lead to the soul. Lisa, good to see you this afternoon. If we lose the team up north again, our fan base is going to lose it. Yeah, we're going to lose it every time we lose. to the team up north. 100%. Good to see you, Lisa. All right. Let's break some of the stuff down that he talked about here. Would love to get your feedback on these topics as well, everybody. Let's have a great conversation. A couple juniors might be walking. Well, not walking with the seniors, but this might be their last home game as well. That I thought that was an interesting question. I also think that that's who might those guys be? Probably going to be doing a video about that as well. So be on the lookout. Juniors that we do not foresee coming back in 2026. Let me write that down. Not coming back 2026. With NIL, it's changed it a little bit. What we saw happen in 2024 with a lot of those guys coming back kind of gives you some hope. We might be able to bring some of these guys back as well. Brian, New York, good to see you, buddy. It's been a while. Great tailgate for the UCLA and the Twins' 21st birthday on Saturday. Off to West Point this weekend to lock up a bowl game. OH, good to see you, Brian. Fantastic. Congratulations on the birthday and getting to go tailgate with them at the UCLA game, brother. All right, here we go. Let's keep her moving. This team is very businesslike. He mentioned that several times. This team is very businesslike. He also said they have a good look in their eye, and then he circles back around at the end of the press conference when asked about what is it that you look for? Why do you feel this way? Brandon Ennis says you had a different look in your eye. What's changed? And he basically said, I don't know. I think that's a good answer. I think that was an honest, good answer. Like, I don't know. I'm still the same guy. I don't know. Maybe he's just been a little bit more aggressive, but hopefully, we'll see what the change is next weekend, right? I love the answer. Highs lead to the soul. Spencer Holbrook, interesting question about player feedback. Coaches are the most uncoachable people was his quote. What a quote. Coaches are some of the most uncoachable people. He said there needs to be a high level of trust and an environment of feedback. And he said about this team, there's not a lot of drama on this team. They show up and they do their work. Thought that was incredibly interesting comment as well. So yeah, a lot of talk about this team being businesslike. They show up, they do their work. They have a look in their eye. We used to call that the eye of the tiger back in the 90s, Rocky, eye of the tiger. Yeah, that's what that was, right? Very businesslike. About the team, he says they do a great job of Sunday through Saturday, basically the work week. The from Sunday when they come in and they watch their film to Saturday when they're on the field and they're playing that game, the work week for them from Sunday to Saturday. Thought that was an interesting thing as well. So those were some of the things that came out in this press conference. Obviously, like we've been talking in the chat the entire time, like Sean Duffy was saying here, when it comes to the big story, the wide receivers. Carnell Tate and J.J. Smith's health is going to dominate the headlines. It already was, like he said. It's going to continue to dominate those headlines. We are going to have fans who think this is a complete and utter bluff. I am not one of those people. I think it is real. I think that they are really dealing with some very real injuries. I think that was confirmed for us today. I will be shocked if you hear that both those players were practicing full go tomorrow at Wednesday's practice from the media. I will be shocked. And Buck Vader was already on it, and I think he gave us a quick little answer. I think this is Buck Vader saying, yeah, they're injured. I will confirm that with him. But this is definitely going to be a topic of discussion moving forward, everybody. And we will be here to talk about it. We'll be here to report on it. Michigan's lost two of their best players. for the game, and their running backs. We'll see if they get one back. If JJ sits out this weekend in precaution and he's going to be able to go against Michigan, I think that's great. I'm wondering if Tate's done. And if it's a hammy, which is what I've heard it is, that one could be bad. That could be bad. Those injuries linger. That's the worst injury I ever had was my hammy in baseball my senior year. I couldn't run it. I couldn't run with a lick. So I can't imagine what it would be like trying to be a wide receiver with that kind of injury. Kyle says, tight end room about to have a heavy workload versus Rutgers. Oh, yeah. Get ready for a lot of 12-man personnel, boys and girls. Oh, yes. For blocking purposes in the running game and for the passing game as well. We're a little play action off of that. 12-man personnel. Yeah, good call, Kyle. Tight end's about to get busy in this game. No joke. All right, guys, that is our show for the Ryan Day press conference. I appreciate each and every single one of you who showed up, hung around, hung out with us in the chat. Make sure you hit the like button. Please consider subscribing if you're not. We had a nice day yesterday, had a nice little bump from subscribers yesterday. Now sitting at 133 subscribers away from our 5,000 goal by the end of the season. So please help us get there. 133 more. If you're not subscribed to the channel, share the show if you don't mind on your social media accounts. Let everybody know what's happening over here at the OHIO podcast. We appreciate all of you, and we look forward to talking to you all again. Don't forget, tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern will be the Buckeye Lounge. Orlando Lowry will be joining both Sean and TG. Former Buckeye Orlando Lowry, former Indianapolis Colt, will be on the show talking Buckeyes and his career, and I'm sure he'll field some questions about this team from all of you in the chat as well. That'll be tonight at 8 o'clock. Kyle says, OHIO, buddy, good to see you. Appreciate that. Y'all have a great day, and we will be back with another video for you tomorrow. Until then, make sure check it out tonight. Go check out our social medias. Go check out our Patreon, and we'll be talking Buckeyes from now till then. Take care, everybody. Go Bucks.